You are on Crocodile's True Stories channel. Enjoy listening. It started the night before Thanksgiving. One of those cold, quiet evenings when everything feels mostly fine on the surface, but something underneath keeps tugging at you, like a thread coming loose on a favorite sweater. I was in the kitchen, pulling out the wine glasses from the top cabinet, fingers coated in flour from prepping the pumpkin pie crust. Our 6-year-old was asleep on the couch, wrapped in her favorite quilt, some old holiday cartoon playing in the background. My wife, Claire, was at the dining table, scrolling her phone while pretending to be invested in what I was doing. We were supposed to be tag-teaming the prep work. She'd promised she'd take care of the stuffing and I'd handle the pies. But lately, she'd been checking out of little things. She'd sit right there in the room and somehow feel distant, like her mind was always half a beat behind the moment. I chalked it up to work stress. The holidays can be a lot. Then, her phone buzzed on the wood. That sound, usually so common I barely noticed it, hit me differently this time. I don't know why I looked. Maybe it was the tone of the notification, louder than usual, or maybe it was the way she subtly stiffened before it buzzed, like her body knew what was coming before the sound did. Reflexively, I turned my head and glanced down at the screen before she could flip it over. The preview read, "Andrew from Logistics. Can't stop thinking about." Then the rest of the message disappeared as the screen dimmed. It was a punch straight to the gut. We both knew there was no logistics department at her company. I've met her coworkers. Hell, I've grilled burgers for half of them at our summer barbecue. Claire works in a small firm, mostly HR and client-facing teams. If there were someone named Andrew from Logistics, I would have heard the name before. She's not a great liar, but she's a decent storyteller. I figured if something was happening, it would take time for the script to unravel. But she didn't offer a story. She snatched the phone off the table so fast it clattered against the edge of her plate. I stood there, arms frozen halfway toward the cabinet, still holding the glasses like I was waiting for applause. Claire didn't even glance at me. She just got up, mumbled something about needing to check the marshmallows, which made zero sense, since we hadn't even opened the bag, and disappeared into the bathroom. I waited. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and walked to the door, gently placing my ear near it. No running water. No toilet flush. Just the muffled sound of a voice, hers. Whispering. Claire never whispers in the bathroom. If she takes a call, she usually goes upstairs. If it's work, she speaks in her clipped, professional tone. This wasn't that. It was soft, like a secret. Like something sacred being confessed to someone who wasn't supposed to exist. She finally emerged, eyes darting past me like I was just furniture. No explanation. No mention of Andrew. She didn't even ask if the wine glasses were clean. Just walked back to the table, poured herself a generous glass of the Malbec I was saving for dinner, and sat down, swiping through her phone again. I watched her for a minute, waiting for her to acknowledge the tension that had just entered the room like a storm cloud. She didn't. Not even a crack in her posture. If anything, she leaned harder into the nonchalance. The kind of coolness that only comes with guilt, or worse, comfort with deception. Dinner prep resumed like normal, but it wasn't normal anymore. She avoided eye contact for the rest of the evening. Her answers to my small talk were short, vague. MMM, and yeah, and I'm just tired. Her phone stayed glued to her hand. The screen turned away from me each time it lit up. The little things started adding up fast. She kept her thumb poised near the lock button, ready to K*LL the screen at a moment's notice. She laughed at something she read, and then instantly looked guilty about it. She didn't even say goodnight to our daughter when we tucked her in. We sat together on the couch with a movie on, and she kept checking the time. Not the movie time. The phone time. I stared at the television, but didn't absorb a second of it. My thoughts were too loud. Who was Andrew? What exactly couldn't he stop thinking about? And why did Claire need to hide that? Maybe it wouldn't have rattled me so much if things hadn't already been strained between us. Over the past few months, she'd grown quieter. There was less laughter, fewer inside jokes. She used to run to me with every little story from her day, even the boring ones about broken office printers or awkward elevator silences. But that had faded. Conversations had turned into check-ins. The kind couples do out of habit, not curiosity. Still, I had convinced myself it was just a rut, that we were tired. Busy. Parenting, work, stress, all the usual suspects. But now, with one stupid message on a phone screen, That entire illusion started cracking like ice beneath my feet. Claire finished her wine and poured a second glass, but didn't offer me one. She didn't even ask if I wanted dessert. Just sat there, scrolling and occasionally smirking at her screen like the rest of the room didn't exist. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't say her name. I didn't ask who Andrew was or why he was messaging her during family prep time. I knew if I did, I wouldn't like the answer. And worse, she might lie. And if she lied, then I'd have to face the fact that I didn't believe her. That's when things stop being questions and start becoming truths. So I stayed silent. But the static didn't fade. It built in my chest like a pressure cooker. I went to bed that night staring at the ceiling, her turned away from me, scrolling her phone in the dark. She thought I was asleep. I could hear the faint click of her typing, the whispery rhythm of her thumbs moving fast. There was no good reason to be texting at 11:42 p.m. the night before Thanksgiving. Not unless you're hiding something. And then, right as I was about to drift into that uneasy half-sleep, I heard the faint buzz of a message come in. Then silence. Then a soft exhale, a laugh, almost. But not the kind she used to share with me. It was a laugh meant for someone else. After that night, I couldn't unsee it. It's strange how one moment can flip a switch in your brain. One message, one name on a lock screen, and suddenly everything that once seemed harmless starts playing back in your mind like scenes from a movie you didn't know you were starring in. And the worst part? I didn't know what was real anymore. I kept telling myself not to overreact. Maybe Andrew from logistics was some vendor or client. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe I was just reading too much into it. But even as I tried to rationalize, my brain had already begged asterisk in assembling the timeline, pulling at threads I'd ignored for months. My memory wasn't just remembering, it was investigating. The first thing that came back to me was the yoga retreat in Denver. 2 weekends in September. She'd told me her company was sponsoring a mental wellness initiative. Said it was all about decompressing, disconnecting to reconnect, she called it. I didn't question it. She came back with a few selfies, a tan line, and a brochure I never bothered to read. But now, I remembered something that didn't sit right. She had posted 0 pictures during the trip. Not on Instagram, not on her stories, not even in our shared photo folder. Claire loves documenting things. Her photo library is categorized by season. So why nothing from Denver? I remembered another thing, the bracelet. She came home one evening in October with this sleek, minimalist silver cuff on her wrist. She told me it was a giveaway from work, part of some wellness swag bag from the Denver retreat. But when I asked if anyone else got one, she shrugged and said most of her coworkers didn't go. A week later, I overheard her on the phone, laughing. A full, genuine laugh I hadn't heard in months. When I walked into the room, she ended the call immediately and said it was her sister. Except, I knew her sister was on a flight to Atlanta that night. I had booked it for her using our shared points. Things kept stacking. The late-night meetings became more frequent. Always just a little vague. It's a rollout project. It's a deadline. It's the end of quarter crunch. But the timing didn't match what I knew about her company. She was working late, but her office lights didn't show up on the security camera feed they used for remote building access, something I had set up years ago when she worried about walking out alone at night. And then there were the muted notifications. She used to leave her phone out, face up, on the nightstand. No passcode. Just easy, casual trust. But sometime in late summer, that changed. Suddenly, it was always face down. Then it had a new lock screen. Then the notifications stopped appearing altogether. Not even previews. Just little bubbles that blinked and disappeared before I could read anything. She brushed it off when I asked. New phone update, she said. Trying to stay focused. Focused on what? Our asterisk, Macy dropped off too. Gradually, at first, then all at once. It became one of those unspoken things you pretend not to notice because naming it out loud feels like admitting defeat. She was always tired. Always not in the mood. I thought maybe it was stress. I suggested a weekend getaway. She smiled, but said work was too hectic. That was the pattern. Always a soft excuse, never a confrontation. Looking back, the silence wasn't passive. It was tactical. She used to say goodnight to our daughter every night. No matter what. Even if she came home late, she'd tiptoe into her room, kiss her forehead, and whisper something that made our daughter giggle in her sleep. That stopped sometime in October. I didn't even notice it until I caught myself doing it alone for the 5th night in a row. Claire just started going straight to bed, sometimes without even saying goodnight to me. She'd disappear into her phone, lying on her side like a stone wall between us. There were other signs too, tiny ones that didn't seem important until they were threaded together. Like the night she said she left her charger at work, even though I saw her slip it into her bag that morning. Or the moment I reached for her phone to check the weather, and she yanked it away like I was about to detonate something. And the laughter, that's the one that stung the most. She used to laugh differently with me. Big, unfiltered, throw her head back kind of laughter. But now, when I did manage to crack a joke or bring up a funny memory, she'd smile politely, maybe exhale through her nose, but it didn't reach her eyes. That part of her, the part that was effortlessly, joyfully present, had been outsourced to someone else. Someone who made her light up through a screen. I didn't confront her. I couldn't, not yet. Not when all I had were pieces. It's a weird kind of torment, knowing something is wrong but not having the script to prove it. You start questioning your own sanity. Maybe you're being insecure. Maybe you're imagining things. Maybe you're the problem. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was just now catching up to a truth that had already passed me by. One afternoon, I sat alone in the living room and just watched the room. Everything looked the same, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. Her perfume lingered in the cushions. Her book was still face down on the armrest. Our daughter's crayons were scattered across the coffee table. But the house felt haunted. Not by ghosts, by absence. She was there, but she wasn't. She smiled when she needed to. Asked about groceries. Picked up our daughter from school. Played her part. But her eyes were never fully in the room. They were always scanning, flickering, waiting for the next buzz. The next alert from someone who wasn't me. The worst part was how smooth she'd become. She had mastered the art of not giving me enough to accuse her of anything. Everything could be explained. The silence, stress, the missing charger, memory lapse, the bracelet, a giveaway, the muted phone, focus, the retreat, wellness, the laughter, just tired. But when you zoom out, when you stitch it all together, it stops being noise. It becomes a map. And the map pointed in only one direction, betrayal. The truth didn't come through shouting. It didn't arrive in a dramatic confrontation or some messy slip-up where she screamed a name in her sleep like in the movies. No, real life doesn't hand you answers that easily. In my case, it came quietly, through a mistake so small it almost didn't register at first. It was a Wednesday morning, about a week after Thanksgiving. Claire was out running errands, or maybe at work. I didn't even bother asking anymore. By then, I had stopped pretending I trusted her whereabouts. I was home working remotely, trying to book train tickets for a business trip next month. My laptop had been acting up, so I grabbed hers off the dining table. She'd left it open, browser still up. That alone raised eyebrows. Claire never left tabs open. She closed things obsessively. Emails, windows, conversations. There was a Gmail tab, still signed in. I hesitated. Even though things between us had been strained for months, even though my gut had practically written me a memo saying she was hiding something, I still paused. Old instincts, I guess, respect, trust, decency. But those instincts had protected me while someone else chipped away at the foundation of our marriage. So I clicked. Her inbox opened to a travel confirmation. Subject line: your booking is confirmed. Houston West Suites. 4 nights, 2 adults. At first, my mind tried to rationalize. Maybe it was for someone else. Maybe she helped her sister or a friend. But then I saw it. The reservation was in Claire's full legal name. Not just her email. The billing name. The card used, ours. The same card tied to our joint account. I clicked through the details. Check-in, Thursday, October 19th. Check-out, Monday, October 23rd. Number of guests, 2 adults. Room type, king suite, breakfast included. And there it was, bold and unavoidable. The exact same dates she claimed to be at that wellness retreat in Denver. No yoga mats. No sound baths. No journaling in mountain silence. Just 4 nights at a suburban hotel just outside of Houston, 1,000 miles from where she said she'd be. I felt the back of my neck burn. I clicked Show Full Details and scrolled further. Receipts for spa charges, room service, and a wine bar nearby. A dinner for 2 at a bistro. A late checkout. None of it screamed solo reset. The last nail in the coffin? The email address she used to make the booking wasn't her main one. It was an old Gmail account, one I hadn't seen in years. She used to use it when we were dating. She told me she kept it for subscriptions and junk mail. But apparently, it had found a second life. I backed out of the email, shaking now. The laptop suddenly felt radioactive. I closed it and placed it gently back where I found it, like I was scared of setting off a trap. But the trap had already been sprung. I just hadn't realized it yet. I sat in the kitchen, the ticking of the wall clock sounding louder than it had in years. I stared at the tiles, at the wine rack, at the family calendar pinned to the corkboard where she'd written Wellness, Denver, in her careful, loopy handwriting. A lie, written in dry erase marker. Still sitting there like it wasn't mocking me. I opened my phone and searched for Houston West Suites. The photos matched the booking. A modest business hotel, nothing flashy, but clean. Int asterisk mate. Quiet. Perfect for staying off the radar. Their website had a photo of the room she booked. King bed. Soft lighting. A complimentary champagne welcome for couples celebrating a special occasion. My hands shook so badly I dropped the phone. I picked it up, stared at the lock screen. A picture of our daughter and Claire laughing together at the zoo. Innocent. From another lifetime. From before. I wasn't angry yet. Anger comes fast and hot. This was something colder. Heavier. Like standing in the middle of an avalanche with no sound. Just the slow crush of reality. I pulled out her credit card statements. She had used her phone to handle most of the payments. Apple Pay, mobile orders. But a few charges stuck out. Gas near Houston. A Lyft ride in the same zip code as the hotel. A $58 bill from a place called the Sunset Table. I checked their website. Candlelit, live music, romantic prix-fixe menu. I remembered texting her that night, asking if she was feeling better. She'd replied 3 hours later. Sorry, I passed out early. Exhausted. But today was really grounding. Love you. That same night, she was sharing creme brulee with someone else. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the ease. The orchestration. How carefully she'd planned it. The fake emails, the dummy calendar, the off-the-grid hotel. This wasn't a drunken mistake. It was a vacation with another man while her daughter and husband watched Halloween movies at home without her. I closed my eyes and tried to picture his face. Andrew. The man from logistics who didn't exist. I imagined him driving her to the hotel. Making her laugh in ways I couldn't anymore. Helping her carry a suitcase I thought she packed for self-care. Tucking her hair behind her ear like I used to. And Claire, lying on hotel sheets I didn't recognize, with a voice I didn't know anymore. That's what hurt the most. That somewhere between Denver that wasn't and Houston that was, she'd started using a version of herself that I didn't have access to anymore. A version she reserved for him. I stayed there for hours, frozen. Not crying. Not yelling. Just rewiring. Because now, it wasn't suspicion. It wasn't intuition. It was data. Dates. Receipts. Her name, tied to a room, booked for 2. No more wondering. No more guessing. I finally had the truth, and it was worse than I imagined. I didn't ask her about it that night. She came home and smiled and kissed me on the cheek, like I hadn't just walked through the wreckage of our life. She microwaved leftovers and asked how work was. I answered, monotone. She didn't notice. She asked if I wanted to watch something. I said I was tired. Then she said something almost comical. I think we're finally getting back into a rhythm. I smiled back, tight-lipped. I told her I thought so too. Because now, I wasn't looking for answers. Now, I was waiting for the right moment to deliver them. I didn't confront her. Not directly. Not yet. After the hotel confirmation, something shifted in me. Not a breakdown. Not an explosion, but a calm unraveling. Like my body finally gave up the exhausting effort of denial. I had been clinging to the hope that it was just paranoia, that maybe I was overthinking, maybe we were just off. But now I knew better. She had taken a trip with another man. Lied about every part of it. Smiled in my face. Hugged our daughter when she returned. Slipped back into our home, our bed, our life, like nothing had happened. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I did something worse. I moved in silence. The first thing I did was open the banking app. Our accounts were linked. Joint cards, savings, auto payments. It had always made sense when things were good. But now, it was a thread she could tug on while still holding hands with someone else. I couldn't stomach that. So I froze everything. Every shared account. Every credit card she used that carried my name. I opened new ones in mine alone. Changed passwords. Updated security questions. Set up alerts. Removed her from emergency access, travel permissions, and household logins. Took my name off hers too, not out of spite, but necessity. By the time she noticed, the damage would already be contained. She could cheat with her heart, but she wouldn't cheat with my trust. Not anymore. I also made a quiet call to the attorney I'd spoken to once before, months ago, back when I was still unsure if I was just being paranoid. Her name was Deborah. No nonsense, razor sharp. I told her it was time. She didn't ask questions. She just said, "I'll get started." Then came Thanksgiving. That's when it got cruel. We hosted her family that year, Claire's idea. Said it would help bring everyone together after what had been a rough season. The irony didn't land with her, of course. I agreed without hesitation. I wanted the house full. I wanted witnesses. It was a nice distraction, or should have been. Claire was radiant that day, acting like everything was perfect. She wore a deep green dress, hair curled the way I used to love, eyes brighter than they'd been in weeks. She floated from room to room, hugging, laughing, tossing little compliments at her sister, refilling glasses, giving our daughter kisses on the head. She looked like a woman living in a happy marriage. Or maybe like someone playing the role just convincingly enough to make herself believe it. When her father raised a toast before dinner and said, "To family, and to Mark, for being the most devoted dad I've ever seen. This little girl is lucky," I saw it happen. Claire's jaw tensed. Her smile didn't fade, but her eyes narrowed, just a twitch. She reached for her wine glass a little too quickly, knocked it against her plate, and when the toast ended, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Well, it helps when that's the only thing you're focused on." The table went quiet. I felt heat crawl up my neck. Her aunt chuckled awkwardly. Someone cleared their throat. I just kept my eyes on my plate, hands calm, expression flat. Claire didn't even blink. She just took a slow sip of her wine and cut into her turkey like she hadn't just thrown a grenade into the middle of the meal. She knew what she'd done. It was deliberate, calculated. She needed to tilt the narrative, plant a seed. If things blew up soon, she didn't want to be the villain. She wanted everyone to believe I was emotionally distant or uninvolved. She wanted a buffer for the truth. But she underestimated me. After dessert, I took our daughter upstairs and read her a story, something soft and old and familiar. She clung to me a little tighter than usual. Maybe she felt the tension too. Kids always do. I kissed her forehead, tucked her in, and closed the door behind me. Downstairs, Claire was laughing with her cousin near the back patio, glass in hand, phone in the other. I could hear the clink of ice cubes, her voice rising above the others like it always did when she'd had just enough wine to feel brave. I didn't join them. I slipped into the office instead, logged into the bank one more time to make sure the freezes had processed. They had. Every joint credit card, locked. Every auto draft she depended on, disabled. Her personal card, the one she used most, revoked. The final nail? I logged into the travel rewards program and changed the email and password. The points she had used for Houston? My points. The irony wasn't lost on me. I didn't delete her account. I just made sure she couldn't access it. By the time she came upstairs, the night winding down, cheeks flushed from wine and laughter, she looked surprised to find me sitting calmly at the edge of the bed. "Hey," she said casual. "Everyone's heading out. You good?" "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." She smiled, then went to the bathroom. I heard her brushing her teeth, humming something under her breath, some holiday tune we used to dance to in the kitchen. The melody felt cruel now. She climbed into bed a few minutes later, back turned to me, phone in hand. I could see the glow of the screen lighting up her shoulder, the muted buzz of messages coming in. She typed, paused, deleted. Typed again. Probably him. She didn't say goodnight. Neither did I. At 1:13 a.m., I heard her whisper something into her pillow, laughter, soft. Then the quiet tap of her thumbs again. At 1:16 a.m., I got the alert. Her card had been declined. Then again, at 1:18. Then again, trying to hail a late-night ride share. I stared at the phone in my palm, watching her unravel in real time just 10 inches from me. She didn't know I could see the alerts. Didn't know I had frozen her life, while she was still pretending to enjoy it. She got up, walked to the bathroom again, stayed there for 15 minutes. I didn't move. I didn't ask. When she finally returned, she stood at the foot of the bed for a few seconds, maybe waiting for me to speak, maybe daring me to. But I gave her nothing. No questions. No arguments. No drama. She slipped back under the covers. The silence was louder than any scream I could have mustered. She had made her choice, and I had finally made mine. The days that followed were quieter than I expected, not because nothing was happening, but because I wasn't reacting anymore. Something had shifted inside me. The shock was over. The ache, too. What replaced it wasn't anger or sadness, not exactly. It was clarity. Cold, level, and absolutely final. Claire, for her part, acted as if Thanksgiving had never happened. No mention of her comments at dinner. No acknowledgement of the way I'd shut down that night. If she noticed that our bank accounts had frozen, or that her favorite card was mysteriously declined 3 times in one night, she said nothing. Maybe she thought it was a glitch. Maybe she didn't want to ask. Or maybe she was scared to find out what I already knew. She still moved around the house like she belonged there. Still smiled at our daughter like nothing had changed. Still scrolled her phone late into the night. Curled up at the farthest edge of the bed like it was a ledge she might fall from. I watched her sometimes, not with bitterness, but with a strange detachment, like watching an actor in a play I'd already read the ending to. I started sleeping in the guest room. I didn't announce it. I didn't explain. I just carried my pillow down the hall one night and never came back. She didn't follow. She didn't ask why. That, I think, was the first honest moment between us in a long time. Both of us silently acknowledging the wall that had been there for months. Now we were just giving it shape. I spent the early mornings making coffee, packing our daughter's lunch, and walking her to the bus stop. Claire had always insisted on doing that before, but suddenly, she seemed to vanish into the bathroom right as the morning routine began. I didn't complain. I didn't offer her a reminder. I just let her remove herself. She tried, in small ways, to gauge me. Hovered at the kitchen door a few times. Asked if I needed help with dinner. I said no. She lingered in the living room during movies she never used to care about. I didn't invite her in. She even asked one night if I wanted to talk. I told her I was tired. Not because it was a lie. I was tired. But not in the way she meant. I wasn't just exhausted from work or sleep deprived. I was tired of the pretending. Tired of doing emotional gymnastics to excuse someone else's betrayal. Tired of being told I was imagining things while my world collapsed in slow motion. I gave her nothing. Not anger, not affection, not curiosity. I stopped feeding the dynamic entirely. She didn't know what to do with that. I think, deep down, Claire expected a blow-up. Something loud. Explosive. A shouting match, accusations, maybe even some shattered plates for good measure. That's what cheaters prepare for, right? The big scene. They play it out in their heads, ready to deny, spin, rewrite history. But I didn't give her the scene. And without it, she couldn't play the victim. Instead, she watched as I moved on without asking for closure. As I got quieter, more deliberate, she watched me set boundaries without permission. I became someone she didn't recognize. Not because I'd changed, but because I'd stopped making space for her deception. I called Deborah again and asked her to begin drafting the first round of paperwork. Asset separation, custodial preference, primary residence designation. No filing yet. Just preparation. She agreed and said, "When you're ready, this will move fast." That was what I wanted, fast. Clean. Silent, if possible. I also started organizing everything into a private document, a timeline, digital receipts, **TS of the hotel booking, even photos of the wine bar near the Houston Suites. Not because I wanted revenge. I just wanted to be thorough. I had learned the hard way that marriage isn't just about love. It's also paperwork, records, the fine print beneath every memory. And I wasn't going to let her rewrite any of it. At night, I'd read with our daughter until she drifted off, her little fingers still curled around mine. She didn't ask about her mom's absence at bedtime. Kids are observant. She knew something had changed. But instead of asking, she adjusted. That broke my heart more than anything. Watching a child learn to fill emotional gaps you didn't want them to notice in the first place. Claire still tried, sometimes. She brought home groceries we didn't need. Picked up my dry cleaning without asking. Sent me a link to a show she thought I'd like. All surface-level gestures. The kind you make when you're hoping to distract someone from the thing you did that you can't take back. But I wasn't interested in distractions. I was interested in rebuilding. And that didn't include her anymore. I met with a financial advisor and transferred certain assets into a holding account. All legal, all above board. The house was still in both our names, but I'd already begged asterisk in the process of separating utilities, phone plans, insurance policies. I wasn't punishing her. I was preparing, and she knew it. She started sleeping less. I could hear her pacing sometimes. Once, I walked into the kitchen at 3 a.m. and found her sitting at the table, staring at her phone, eyes red, tea untouched. She looked up like she wanted to say something, but I just poured a glass of water and left. That moment, that helpless silence, was the closest thing to a confession I ever got. She still hadn't admitted it, still hadn't said his name, still hadn't offered the truth. But by then, I didn't need it. The truth didn't require her cooperation anymore. I started journaling. Nothing poetic, just the facts. What happened, when, how I felt. Not because I thought I'd forget, but because I wanted to remember with clarity, not bitterness. I didn't want my healing to depend on her apology. I didn't want to tether my peace to someone who had already shown me what I meant to her. One entry I wrote simply said, "She made her choice. Now I'm making mine. One of us will live with regret. The other will live with peace. I'll take the peace." By the end of that week, I stopped wondering if she was still seeing him. I didn't check her phone, didn't look through her browser history, didn't scan her face for guilt or clues. I didn't care. Whether she was still in touch with Andrew, or whether he had already ghosted her, no longer mattered. That version of her, the one who lied, who betrayed, who spent our vacation points on a hotel bed meant for someone else. That version wasn't my wife anymore. The person in my house was just someone passing through. Maybe she realized it, maybe not. But by the time she left the room when I entered, or sat in the corner during dinner pretending to scroll, or stared at the floor when our daughter asked her to play, the gap between us had become something even she couldn't cross. It wasn't resentment anymore. It was absence. And there's no apology big enough to fill that.